Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to our February board meeting. Call this meeting to order. We will have a pledge offered by Stacy Anderson and then an invocation offered by Carol Perkins.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father in heaven, we're thankful that we could meet tonight in our school board meeting. We're thankful for our teachers and our students and administrators. Grateful for all the work that each of them put in. We're thankful to have this position to help to oversee and to make. We pray that thou will bless us as we make choices, that it will benefit all those involved. We're thankful for the potential for moisture on our land. We pray that individuals will make good decisions and be safe. We'll all be able to resume school next week. We ask for these things and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 3.2, approval to reschedule March 14th, 2019 regular board meeting to March 21, 2019.
Is that the same date as the speaker will be coming, the Jesus?
It is. We're running because of the snow. We had to reschedule that speaker. Running out of dates in March, because we have to coincide our meetings with the things that happen at the city also.
Mm-hmm.
We have spring break the week prior, and we feel like the 7th is too early in March, since that's just a week or so away, to have another board meeting. So that is the best time. We could adjust if the board feels it okay. We could adjust our time and begin, instead of having the work session start at 5 and finish in time to go to the presentation for Jesus that evening, but that's at the board's discretion.
I'd be okay with doing that. I'd like to go to that.
Yeah, so would I.
I'll make a motion to change the time to 5. Is that right, Shad?
It would be at 5, yes.
We would do away with
First, and we wouldn't have a work
March
session.
21st at 5 o'clock, no work session.
the work session before.
Okay. I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Kelly, you'll keep us all straight on that,
I
right?
will.
Thank
Mhm.
Kelly's the best. Okay, item 3.3, recognition of legendary staff members. Mr. Housley.
Mr. President, members of the board, if you would go around to the front, we'll begin with our recognitions, and we'll invite Mrs. Jaramillo to come up first.
Mr. President and members of the board, Mr. Housley. Tonight, you might see Rachel Hall's letter of resignation in your board pack. And yes, it is true. She has an awesome opportunity with the city, and it's really good for her. And my question is it good for me? Is it good for Whipple Ranch? Is it good for Show Low School District? And that answer would be no, it is not. For the past 3 years, she has been instrumental in the success, my success as a principal, and everything that's happened at Whipple. Miss Hall began at Show Low. I'm going to cry because I love this girl so much. Miss Hall began Show Low School District. in 2013. She moved to Whipple Ranch in 2014, and I inherited her when I became administrator on the campus 3 years ago. And what an inheritance I received. She's organized, she keeps all the finances of our school in order, but she's more than a finance secretary. She possesses all of the soft skills that cannot be taught. She is truly an administrative assistant. I could not be the administrator on the campus if she was not there to assist me. One of her most important qualities is that she is so trustworthy. She always puts students, staff, and the district first. We have been so really blessed to have her. You might be thinking, does she wear a cape? I'm not aware of it, but if you told me she did, it wouldn't surprise me. Our loss is the city's gain, and I really thank Rachel for all that she has done.
And I might note that she has one of the best birthdays ever. So, Nicholas Homestead, Mr. Hall, come on up.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come and recognize great people in our district. Tonight, it's my privilege to bring with me Mrs. Jeannie Blum. She's a fifth grade teacher at Nicholas Homestead. Let me tell you a little bit about Mrs. Blum. Mrs. Blum has a master's degree in elementary education, and she's endorsed in gifted education. She loves professional development, and she loves to grow and improve for her own benefit. And with that, she loves sharing her knowledge with others. Mrs. Blum is an experienced teacher. She has taught grades 2 through 6 for the last 31 years. So she has a great deal of experience. She started teaching in Germany in the Air Force, and then taught in Glendale, Arizona, Northern Nevada, Scottsdale, and now Show Low. 12 of those teaching years were spent teaching gifted students. Mrs. Blum loves her students. She's currently also serving as a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate for foster children. Today I asked some of her students, how they feel about Mrs. Blum, and this is some of the responses. She's the best teacher I've ever had. She increases my skills. She makes me think. I love her because she cares. She helps. She's funny. Another one said she's super funny. And another one says she has a great sense of humor. So I thought that was pretty consistent with her children. One said she's not easy. She's kind. She listens well. She makes me smile even when I don't feel like it. And another one says she's great at handling kids who talk a lot. That seems to be what kids do a lot nowadays, is talk a lot in class. So, her colleagues say this about her. Mrs. Blum is a great member of our team. She has a great content knowledge of fifth grade curriculum. She has great ideas about teaching students with specific needs. She shares freely for all of us to benefit. As her school building principal, I consider her a valuable asset to Nicholas Homestead Elementary. She's organized, she has a wonderful attitude and personality. She's dedicated to her job, and as a staff member, I have great trust and confidence in her. I really feel like Show Low School District is blessed to have Jeannie Blum. So I present to you legendary staff member Jeannie Blum.
Mrs. Clark in the junior high. Our legendary staff for the junior high was Coach Moya. He and the high school cheer are on their way to nationals in California, so we're happy that he's there with them. We've got Mr. Marchant. You don't look like Mr. Marchant.
Yeah, I don't get called Mr. Merchant very often. So, I'm Mrs. Robertson, and I have Sheree Leatherwood with us today. She is a dedicated and passionate educator. She has been with the director of our high school emotionally disabled person program, also known as EDP, for the past 5 years. She has not only developed strong relationships with some of our most challenging students on campus, but she develops genuine relationships with all people she works with. Sheree is a model of perfection when it comes to creating a classroom where students would go to learn even if they didn't have to the point they don't leave when they've graduated. It's true. She has many students that want to be in a room where she and her staff have created a trusting environment even after they have earned all of their credits. Her classroom has a lot of moving pieces, and she can move seamlessly from teaching to a student crisis back to teaching with a blink of an eye. She's not only able to make connections with her students, but with the staff on campus as well. She has 3 paraprofessionals in her room, and they truly are a family. She has an unbelievable ability to create a family where students feel safe and trusted with the adults in there like they're their own moms. Mrs. Leatherwood has this amazing skill to develop strong working relationships with all other teachers as well, to keep strong communication up so her students succeed everywhere on campus. Not only does she run a strong EDP program, but she's been involved as a volleyball coach and volunteer. She is also an active member in our ski club, so the weather is she's definitely in favor of, which goes to Colorado every year. She is truly one of a kind, and we are so grateful for her dedication to our school, our students, and the community. She is truly all in every aspect of the meeting. This is Sheree Leatherwood. Now we get to go take a picture. Three. We're good.
Mr. Clark, Mr. West, you all want to come up together?
This is John Bruce and Tom Iverson. And I wanted to put them up for legendary staff because of their strong work ethic. To give you a glimpse into how dedicated they are, I recently went to the 2 of them. I had a project that was really going slow. And I went to them and I said, listen, I think it would be we could get this project done if we came in at 2 a.m. and worked for 6 hours before people started showing up. And both of them were, they, with no hesitation, they said, yeah, I'm up for it. Let's do it. I think Tom even added, let's rock and roll this place. And when we did it, we worked at it and we got the job done. But it's not just because of that job, it's because every time you ask them to do something, they're willing and they're up for it. You don't have to convince them that it's something that needs to be done. You just ask to do it. The only thing I've ever asked them to do that I got lip about was to show up tonight for this award. They're very dedicated, they're hardworking, they're reliable, and they're trustworthy. And I wanted them to know that, their hard work is making a big impact on instruction in the classroom. It's making a difference in the district. So I'm presenting John Bruce and Tom Iverson.
Thank you, Hal.
So, Mr. Iverson's being presented twice because not only does he do that, he works for me in maintenance, and he stepped in and helped IT because it was stuff that we do as a district. The reason I've nominated him for legendary staff is Tom is my right hand. He worked for the district for a long time, and he left to go to Mesa to see how the other half lived, and he didn't like it. And he was able to move back up, and Sholo didn't have any positions available, so he went to Blue Ridge for a short stint until we had a position. And I've been lucky to have him on my staff. And just like Mr. Clark was stating, anything that I ask Tom to do, he does it immediately. He doesn't question it. He just goes and he does it. And he goes into the schools. He has a relationship with every teacher, every administrator, and he keeps all of us on our toes. He likes to keep us laughing. But for a lot of the same reasons as Mr. Clark, Mr. Iverson is very trustworthy. He's loyal. You could state the Boy Scout law, and that's what he is. But better than that, he is a true asset to the Sholo Unified School District. I'm grateful that I have him on my staff.
Come on over and
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask Mr. West to go ahead and stay up here and finish off our legendary staff.
So I have 3 departments, so I have a lot of people. So I'll try to make this brief. So I'm going to start off with Miss Linda Stapley. Linda Stapley is one of our bus drivers. Linda Stapley, when I first got here, it seemed as though she kind of got the rear end of everything. She was on a bus. They didn't want her on that bus. They moved her to somewhere else, and she just was playing hopscotch. And one afternoon, I asked, I'm like, what is the reason why we move her all of the time? And the explanation I got, I didn't really like it, but I noticed that she just did what she was asked to do. She fixed things. She didn't complain. She didn't murmur. Something that I heard recently was she was afraid that she was going to lose her job because they didn't feel as though, she didn't feel as though they respected her or thought she did the right things. I took that as a strength and an asset. It's been a long time coming for Miss Stapley to receive this award because she does do everything that is asked of her. She's respected by all of her students. She'd be put on a bus, and I'd be given questions by students. Are we going to have Miss Linda as our driver? We love Miss Linda. She was taken off of a route. In transportation, you have cake routes and you have regular routes, but she was on what considered cream of the crop. She went to Clay Springs and back, and it's just she is windshield time there, windshield time back, and she got removed from that route so they can give it to somebody else. She just recently had the ability to go back to Linden after going through all that stuff in town. She's now our Linden junior high bus driver, and she's a woman of all trades. The first Christmas I was here, she made these little gingerbread house things, and the thing looked like a mansion. And it's just, she does service for everyone all the time. She's always doing things for other people. She makes her kids feel good, and I just wanted to recognize Linda and present her to you because of the job that she does for us. Dennis. So this is Dennis Lynn.
Can I stand in Linda's shadow? I mean that.
He's almost in a lot of our shadows. But Mr. Lynn is very talented. He's an artist. He built the plastic bronze statues that were in Show Low before they burnt down. But he fixes everything. If a bus gets a scratch on it, he's out there. He's got the whole thing masked off, and he fixes it. And he teaches people. He fixes all of our seats that our students damage. He's been with the district since 2010, but officially he's been here for 7 years full time because last year was a perfect example. His wife, who's a nurse, has a mother who lives in California. Her siblings were taking care of the mom. She started to get worse, and without even thinking about it, Mr. Lynn came into the office and said, I need to leave. I have to resign. I have to go back to California to take care of my mother-in-law. We were able to give him a leave of absence where he went. He was able to use the time that he had, and he came back in July, and here he is. Mr. Lynn is responsible for a lot of the artwork within the district. During the parade, he's the one that drew those pictures on the side of the buses. Great talent. He has a great route. His kids respect him. All of the drivers respect him, and we couldn't do what we do without Mr. Lynn. Now I'll bring up the high school custodian. The reason I nominated Nate Clark for the legendary staff is Nate's not just your typical custodian who just clocks in and goes home. He looks for other things. He's responsible for the high school. He knows the students. I've seen him at the high school several times talking with kids. Sometimes he even has them assist him cleaning up messes in the front that he's found them do. He teaches them responsibility. He's respected by the staff at the high school. He's a leader amongst all of the custodians. They all come to him. If you want a floor waxed and make it shine, go look at the high school gym, even though it's like going to be replaced soon. He is responsible for that. He has his own sheets that he comes up with to order materials. He doesn't just, do it the center paper way. He has a way to keep track of everything at that school. He's respected by his peers. I've talked to custodians that work with him. They look up to him, and not just because he's tall, but because of the things that he does. He stepped in when we didn't have a warehouse technician for a little while. He came over and he assisted in getting the warehouse stuff out to where it needed to go. He's gone to classes to learn how to be a locksmith. He's over at our campus several times a week. learning how to put the cores so he can work on his own blocks at the high school because there's so many of them. He's an asset to the custodial staff. He's an asset to the maintenance department, and we're really proud and grateful for Nate. Juan Munoz has been with this district for a very long time. He started out custodian, right? He was a custodian, and he worked in most all of the schools. He's now our Leeds groundskeeper. He oversees all of our fields. He makes sure that they're ready to go for all of the playing. We have a new schedule that was created this last spring where he will actually be the only custodian. He's our only grounds guy that will actually mow the athletic fields to make sure that they're done right. He is very meticulous in everything that he does. One thing about Juan is he's separated from his family. He has a wife who lives in Mexico, and he's here with one of his sons, and he just had a brand new baby a few months ago, and he goes back every time there's a break. If he has the ability, he goes and spends the time with his family. But Juan, I mentioned that Tom was my right hand in maintenance. Juan is my right hand in grounds. He knows every field. He knows every campus. He works well with every single day custodian to help them with their snow and ice removal. I have caught him a couple times when it's not a time when we should be at the office working, plowing to make sure that it was prepared and ready for the next day. And it's nothing that's asked of him. He just goes and he does. And I wanted to present him to you because I'm very grateful for him and his service to the district. Aguilar. Miss Jaramillo asked, if Rachel wore a cape. Mr. Aguilar does. He is the head custodian at our junior high school. I'm not sure if any of you have been to the junior high school lately and when it's under construction. It is the cleanest campus I've ever seen in the midst of construction. He is just constantly, there's a joke that we all use in the field that he is the cleanest custodian by the time he goes home as he is when he got here. He's very, very meticulous. He doesn't, his campus is spotless. And if you were to ask Mrs. Clark, all of the staff there, he is very proud of his campus. He's very proud of his students. He calls them his students. He assists with like lunch detentions thing. He has these kids. I have 2 children that go to school at the junior high, and they have such high regard for Mr. Aguilar because of the way that he treats them. It doesn't matter where you are. When he sees you, he'll address you as Mr. or Mrs. Shake your hand and say, is there anything I can do? Is everything okay? This young man runs 10 miles every single morning. He goes to the gym at 3 o'clock, and then he goes to work at 6, and he's there. He was just at the junior high till 5:30 because of a basketball game. He's very dedicated. He's very loyal. Very grateful to have him on my staff as well, and I'm grateful that he's with Show Schools.
You're going to have to squeeze in. It's not wide lens.
Okay. 2, 3. One, two, three.
Thank you. Special thank you to all of our legendary staff. We have some wonderful staff. We appreciate you. By all means, if you'd like to spend the rest of the meeting with us, you're welcome. If not, no one will even know. Just sneak out. This is a good time if you wanted to.
If I may, as you all leave, want you to know how much we appreciate you and are grateful for all that you do. We're really lucky for the folks we have in our district, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Item 3.4, Superintendent Report. Mr. Housley.
Mr. President, members of the board, if it's okay, I'm going to invite Mrs. Clark to give a little bit of my report, and then I'll wrap up.
In years past, we had a whole parade of wrestling athletes to share with you. This year, our team was a little bit smaller, and so at the state level, we were able to take a championship as a team. But I wanted to take a minute tonight, and I'm grateful for your time to recognize Breck Williams as the state champion in the state of Arizona. And I'm going to turn some time over to Coach Williams to kind of talk about Breck's accomplishment.
Thank you for having us. Had the privilege of recognizing some young men throughout the years. This one's a little more close to home as it's my son, but I guess I'll take a little time to brag on him a little bit. This year he finished undefeated. He was 37-0 with 35 pins, and had a great year. He was able to win the junior high state championship. And what's unique about that tournament is that there's no divisions. It's every school in the state of Arizona, whether large or small. And he had a great tournament. Had 4 pins in that tournament. In his finals match, he wrestled a kid from Tucson that took 3rd in the Western region. And we knew we'd have his hands full. And Breck performed very well. Wrestled a little more conservative, but came out victorious and beat his opponent 4-2 in the state finals. Become one of the few junior high state champions, and only the second 2-time state champion in Show Low history. So grateful to be a part of Show Low wrestling, the Show Low schools, and a part of Breck's life, and being able to coach my own son's a privilege, and I appreciate everything you guys do for us and your support. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Mr. President, I won't take much time. I just wanted to make everyone aware of just a couple items. I know most people are aware with the weather coming in. We did cancel school for tomorrow and Friday, so we will resume on Monday. We also, as a result of that, Jesus Villahermosa was to be here tomorrow night and Friday to present on school safety to the community and also to our staff. With the school being canceled, he graciously worked with us to reschedule. That'll be on March 21st, and we encourage the community to come out and participate in that free event and to be able to hear what he has to say. We're currently rolling through February pretty quickly. We'll be into March, and before we know it, it'll be spring break. Spring sports, believe it or not, started already, even though we got plenty of snow on the ground. Our baseball team and I believe our track were scheduled to participate in their first events this weekend. But with the weather coming in, that's not going to happen. Those will be rescheduled for a future date. But things are going really well. Our girls basketball, boys basketball, and wrestling teams all did well. They represented us well at state, and we had some robotics teams that were scheduled to go this weekend to some state competitions, junior high or Linden, as well as at the high school. And I think those events have been canceled or postponed. So a lot going on as we roll into the third quarter, but really proud of the accomplishments of our students and our staff.
Thank you. Item 3.5, call to the audience. Kelly, do we have anything?
No, sir.
Thank you. 3.6, future board agenda items. Does anyone have anything? Okay, thank you. Item 4.1, approval of overnight and out-of-state travel. Mr. Housley, please.
Mr. President, members of the board, for your consideration, Mrs. Carpenter, the supervisor for the junior high FBLA, is requesting that the junior high FBLA group go to the Westin La Paloma in Tucson. That will be April 24th and 25th for their competition, and they'll be funding that through fundraising sources. I would ask for your approval of this overnight and out-of-state travel.
I'll make a motion for overnight and out-of-state travel as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4.2, Mr. Housley, approval of the 1920 school calendar.
I'm sorry this has been delayed to February. Usually we like to take care of that a little bit earlier, maybe in January. There's a few things that we needed to consider when we were looking at the school calendar. First off, in accordance with the survey that was given a couple, 2 years ago, the community as a whole wanted school not to have to start in July, and they wanted to end before Memorial Day, which really compresses some time in there. We do have snow days, which we have to build into our calendar, and then we are mandated by the state to go at least 180 days. So all of those things in consideration, and the way the calendar has flopped kind of pushes us back to what you will see as an August 1st start date. We just barely snuck in, not going to July, right? But next year it should flip back as the calendar continues to change. That will put the end of the school year on May 21st. That would be the time that graduation would be there. May 22nd would be the last day for teachers. Every Friday remains an early release. We have we tried very hard to make sure that we aligned our spring break with MPC and other areas so that our kids in Nabit would be able to participate. As you know, MPC doesn't have a fall break, so that's a little bit there. Everything else looks pretty similar to our historic calendars, but I bring that to you this evening for your consideration and your approval.
Make a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 4.3, approval of 1920 high school course description book. Mr. Housley.
Mr. President, this evening in our work session, Mr. Marchant went through some items inside the course description, changes for the upcoming year so that they can begin scheduling students for classes and being able to put their master schedule together. This evening, it's before you for your consideration. If you would like, this would be a great time if there were some highlights that you might want Mr. Marchant to share with the community or any questions you might have for him at this time, you can do that. No questions?
I just wanted to say that as he presented it to us in our work session, I'm just really impressed. I know the time and effort that must go into putting this together and making sure that everything works. I'm just really grateful for he and his team. I think we have a great team there at the high school.
I like the offer of new technology, the offer to the students to learn, to put themselves out there a little bit more with some of the technology that's been put in through the remodel and whatnot. I think it's going to be great.
It was great to see so many options for so many different students and different styles of learning.
Yeah.
It's very well rounded.
And as you know, this is about a 66-page document, so it would take us forever to go through page by page, but those are some highlights and the efforts of his staff. We appreciate that. So I do bring it to you this evening for your approval so that they can begin scheduling students and getting prepped for next school year.
Will they post this on the website after it's approved?
Yeah, they will.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the 2019-20 high school course description book.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 4.4. Thank you, by the way, all that time and effort you folks have put in on that. So grateful. Item 4.4, approval of statement of assurance regarding teacher eval system for 1920.
Mr. President, members of the board, each year we are asked by the State Department to ensure and to actually sign a statement of assurance that our teacher evaluation system is compliant with the statute. And I bring this to you this evening for your approval. I will tell you that our district system is compliant with ASR 15537. And you can feel comfortable giving your assurance that that is the case.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval of statement of assurance regarding teacher evaluation system.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.1, approval of additional positions. Mr. Housley.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have in last year in our approach with Linden School, we know that we're limited on capacity because of some restrictions with our septic and other occupation things. However, we decided last year to be aggressive and to try to build out 2 classes per grade level. The only one that we did not accomplish that, we had to come back actually with 2nd grade, I believe it was, and ask for another position there because we outgrew the single class. Also, 5th grade, we did not feel, we maintained about 27 students during the year. Every other class, because we put 2, kind of the old adage, if you build it, they will come. We put 2 teachers there and we filled those classes to appropriate levels. Most of them are between 36 and 38 with opportunities to grow because we have two there. With the transition of the 5th graders to junior high and all those classes moving up, we now have a need for a position at every grade level, 2 positions at every grade level to make sure we can maintain the needed class sizes for there and to provide for the students that we have. So we bring to you at this time that position for a 5th grade position at Linden next school year, so that we can begin hiring for that position and find a quality instructor to put in the classroom. We also bring before you, we've had an increase of special needs students who have come to our district. They moved into our area, not that they're coming from other districts, but they've moved into our district that require special routes on our special needs buses. We don't like to keep those students on the buses beyond a certain amount of seat hours. We found that we were pushing the limits on that, so we needed to add another special ed route to make 4 routes. So we do need a driver to put on that route to make sure that we are able to service those kids. Most of the students that ride those buses are in a door-to-door service situation, so from our door to their front door. And so the routes do take some time and they do put on a lot of miles for them, but that would be our 4th route. So I bring those 2 positions to you for your approval.
I'll make a motion for approval of the additional 5th grade teacher at Linden and the new special education bus route.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any questions or queries about these? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 5.2, approval of resignations, retirements, and terminations. Mr. Housley.
It's this time of the year when people retire or move on to different opportunities that they have. We have some resignations for your consideration this evening. Chase Adams, our high school chemistry teacher. Mary Amakobi, Nicholas Homestead special ed TA. Maria Bailey, fourth grade teacher, William Bailey, a high school math teacher. They were previously retired and came back to work for us through the Return to Work program. Leona Davis, junior high social studies, who has just transitioned into our choir position. Trish Duncan, Carl Gross, Rachel Hall, Amanda Higg, Thomas Rosenbaum, Karen Seacrest, and Tim Williams. Also for your consideration, the retirement of Kim Waters, Nicholas Homestead, ELL teacher. Bring those for your approval this evening, Mr. President.
I'll motion for the approval of resignations, retirements, and terminations as listed.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 5.3, approval of new hires and transfers. Mr. Housley, please.
Mr. President, new hires for your consideration, both are sub-bus drivers, David Clark and John Inglis. And I have interviewed them today, so it says pending interview. That has happened. So also a transfer from the junior high social studies department to the high school girls PE position effective in the next school year, and that would be Ms. Tasha Maxwell. I bring those for your approval.
Make a motion to approve new hires and transfers.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
And just so for your information, Mr. President, members of the board, when we were talking about a transfer, in most cases in this time frame, a staff member can request a transfer for an open position that's in the district. Both building principals are consult with that staff member and then come to an agreement of the transfer. So that was the case in this instance, and it would be the case in other internal transfers that might come about.
Thank you. Item 5.4, approval of substitutes. Mr. Housley.
For your consideration, we have some certified and classified substitutes. We are always in need of good substitutes, and we're glad when they come on board to help us out. Michelle Ellsworth, the K-12 substitute, Hal Frost, Amber Hall, Kathleen Lowell, and Brittany Schneff, all substitutes K-12. Classified substitutes, Stephanie Bonilla, Emily Durham, Teresa Murrow, Caitlin Parsons, Margaret Pendergast, and Leroy Sanders, all as substitute teacher assistants, and Leroy is a substitute custodian. I bring for your consideration this evening.
I move for the approval of substitutes as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 5.5, approval of stipends and volunteers.
Mr. President, members of the board, we do have some stipends with the spring sports coming on. Byron Clark to serve as the interim head coach. He was previously the assistant coach at the high school. He will serve as the interim head coach this year due to some health concerns of Mr. Nix. Scott Nicholas as an assistant coach. Then junior high track, Tom Rosenbaum as the head coach. He was a previous assistant coach in that program, and Susan Cash as an assistant coach. She was previously the head coach, so just a flip-flop there. As volunteers at the high school, as a high school baseball assistant coach, Hal Frost, high school golf assistant coach, Clayton Monet, high school softball, Mr. Carl Nix will serve in that role this year during the interim. Junior high and high school wrestling, Mike Witt was previously interviewed and served as an assistant coach, or will serve as an assistant coach. Also, Whipple Ranch Elementary and Nicholas Homestead Elementary classroom, Marguerite Pendergast will come on as a volunteer, and then event worker, Morgan Kime. I bring those for your approval this evening.
Go ahead. Yeah. I move for the approval of stipends and volunteers as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.6, approval of contract provisions. Mr. Housley.
Because of the dynamics of our special ed and special needs program and the needs that they have with their routing and other things like that, there was some need to adjust some contracts to make sure that we were meeting the needs of those students. Teresa Gaffney as a sub bus driver to a special needs bus driver. That's an 8-hour position that we just approved to have her go in there. So this would be the person that would go into that position. Carrie Poe is a special ed TA, 7-hour to the EDP special ed TA, 7.5 hours. Helen Robinson has been a special needs bus driver, 8 hours. She'll be moved to a route bus driver, which is a 6-hour position. And Thomas Sharp, food service, he's been serving in that capacity at a 5.5-hour position, 3 days a week. And now it'll be a 5.5-hour position, 5 days a week. I bring those for your approval. Also, for your approval, that was the recommendation. I'm sorry. So bring those for your approval and consideration this evening.
Make a motion to approve the contract revisions as presented.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving to item 7.1, approval of contract with Jive Communications as the telecommunications provider beginning July 1, 2019.
Mr. President, there are a couple things just to think, and I'll let Mr. Schubert take this. We are at the end of a contract term, and that's why this is being brought to you. But Mr. Schubert can do that, and Mr. Clark is in the audience, can answer any questions that you might have.
So as Mr. Hauslick said, our contract with STC Communications ends on June 30th. So we will be needing a new provider as of July 1st. STC was not in consideration this year because they are in the process of going out of business. We did grab three bids from 3 different vendors. And with the help of Mr. Clark and his team, we're able to determine that the product that Jive Communications provides the district is in the best interest of the district. It provides the district with the most, what's the technical term I'm looking for? The most bang for your buck. At this time, I'd like to actually invite Mr. Clark up here.
Very, very technical.
Yeah, because it's a technical day.
I can see why you struggle with.
But I'd like to invite Mr. Clark up to give you a little bit more about the bang for your buck.
I've never been more comfortable with a tech recommendation as I am with this one, because we do get a lot of bang for the buck. But there are 3 things that really, to me, stick out. Number one, it adds a lot of features that we don't currently have. And these features will help our staff be more productive and more efficient, especially the office staff. Number 2, it's a much more cost-effective solution, and that helps out with the budget. And the third one, and to me this is the icing on the cake, is that it has features that will increase school safety. Because I have the mobile app for Jive on my phone, which allows me to have my work extension on my phone. And I can use that app to call an extension to place the school in lockdown from anywhere in the world, actually. Mr. Housley could be at a conference down in the valley and get some kind of notice that something's happening and put the schools in lockdown from remotely. So that is one of the that's really, for me, that's just the best feature that this system has.
You guys have any questions for him?
Sounds great.
That sounds awesome.
All right. We're confident in you, and so we're grateful that you're able to let us know that we can have confidence in this program.
Thank you.
So before I ask for your recommendation for Jive Communications, just one more thing. Even with all the bang for the buck that we're going to get, the contract with Jive Communications will save us about $65,000 a year in our telecommunications. So I just wanted to make sure that that was out there before I asked you for your recommendation.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the contract with Jive Communications as a telecommunication provider beginning July 1st of 2019.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for that. Item 7.2, approval of letters of engagement and AUP letters with Dodbridge and Company.
So every year, our auditors are required to have approval from the governing board to go ahead and publish the results of our audit. That's what these letters are doing. So this is the same thing that we signed in the previous years. So I'm asking for your approval tonight for those letters.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Dodbridge and Company.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. 7.3 bond update. You got this one too?
I'll take it.
Excellent.
So as I stated in our last bond update, all the money for the bond is currently spent or encumbered. But we do have Mr. West here in the audience, and he didn't know I was going to ask him to do this, but if he could come up and give you guys a construction update as to where we are with the ongoing construction that we have recently started, I think that would be very knowledgeable for the board. I'm asking him to do it because I don't want to miss anything.
I'm not sure how much bang for our buck we have with this, but there's a lot of banging going on. Right now, Midstate Energy, who is the one that you see the most, which is our lighting and our water savings, is about 80% completed. They have finished the high school, the junior high school. They have finished Whipple Ranch, including the outside parking lot lights. They finished the district office. They were at Nicholas. They've taken a little break from Nicholas because of the weather, because they're on the outside portion of that now. But that project is well underway. At the junior high, as far as for the new air conditioning units, they've already started to put in all of the piping, and they're hopeful that they can actually have the new air conditioning system running before school ends, which would be quite different than what it currently has been. So that's a positive thing. At the junior high school, for the right now is just there tonight. They've demoed where the new wheelchair ramp is going to be, where the old fireplace used to be. They are hopeful to have that completed next week sometime. It won't be like, they're not going to do the paint or anything like that. They're just going to get it finished so that they can start to use it. They'll move over to the next section to demo the current nurse's office and the new area for the new administrative offices. They're hopeful to have the current office, which is turning into the nurse's office. They're hoping to have that done in the next week or two as well. But they're well on their way with that. And then Linden School was doing well with their remodel for the new front office. The weather has set them back because they have to raise the roof, and they don't want to raise it with some snow. So they've chosen to back off on that. And the high school breezeway has also been under construction. It's completely demoed. They have some slurry in there right now for the new concrete footers. But because of the snow that we've had in the last couple weeks, they've had to stop. And then obviously with the snow coming in this weekend, that project has now been delayed. Probably a month would be my guess, depending on how fast it'll dry out once the weather is over. And I think that's about where we are.
The only thing I'd like to add is that with the fire pit that we've uncovered at the junior high, we have talked with the construction company about trying to save the bricks of the fireplace and the floor that are still there. There's actually still carpet from the old fireplace still there. But we've asked them to try to save as much of that as we can so we can try to incorporate that into the design of our construction. So that is your bond update.
I do promise that we will not reuse the carpet, though.
Yeah, thank you. Would you express our gratitude to them for their efforts and their work? Some of the things that have been finished at the other schools just really really has been great improvements. If you would, please. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Tonight we bring to you for your approval the following: the ratification of our expense and payroll vouchers, the ratification of the junior high and the high school and the food service activities, revenues, and expenditures, approval of the governing board minutes for December 11th as the regular meeting and the January 29th special board meeting. We also bring for your approval the following donations, which was Janelle Trantham. She had donated a Canon printer valued at $40 to Whipple Ranch Elementary. We bring this to you tonight for your approval.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Please let her know we're grateful for her donation there at the, did you say it was at Whipple?
Whipple.
Whipple, please. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9.1, adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out.